In 2001, I started my motorcycling with a single cylinder 180cc engine, making a healthy 15 horsepower. In 2017, I went around Australia on a 275 BHP Ninja H2 for 20,000 kilometers. Where does this need for the power end? And is it even healthy? Or is it the indication of a much deep and dark underlying human nature? Greed.
Well, this, ladies and gentlemen, is a paradox, an irony, and a fact that we as human beings are always confused. Well, let's have a look here. So on my right, here is the 2017 Kawasaki Ninja H2, the same motorcycle that I went around Australia for 20,000 kilometers in 2017, and this bike I actually reflashed to produce around 270 horsepower at the crank and around 256 at the rear wheel on the dyno. On my left is the 2022 Yamaha R7, and this bike is something which is completely opposite to what that bike is. But there is one thing which is common in between these two motorcycles in terms of the kind of emotions they evoke. Very, very polarizing. Well, you see, when the Ninja H2 first was shown to the world at EICMA in Milan, this bike wowed everyone because after a very long time there was a forced induction motorcycle, a supercharged motorcycle, the Ninja H2R, and of course there would have been a road version, which is this, the Ninja H2. And the paint job, the way it looked, everything was built beyond belief, as Kawasaki says. A lot of people said, why do you need this kind of power on two wheels? Where will you use it? And well, the H2R is a track only motorcycle, so of course you can actually use that bike on the track if you can afford one, that is. But what about the Ninja H2, which is a road going production bike? And where will you use that amount of power? 200 horsepower with supercharger, and it used to produce that power in a totally different way, in kind of a two-stroke way. Now coming to the Yamaha R7, this bike also shocked people because, especially when I first saw it on the internet, the Yamaha R7, I of course liked the way it looked. It was in line with the other R series from Yamaha, the R1, the R3 and the R6. So I thought that, wow, Yamaha R7 is going to be a blast. With its 4 cylinders, it's going to scream all the way to 15,000 RPM like the Yamaha R6. None of that was actually true, because beneath this fairing is basically the inline CP2 engine, the cross-planar twin-cylinder engine from Yamaha, which was the same one on the MT-07, producing 72 horsepower, and that's about it. So people were shocked at how can Yamaha actually do this? How can they make the R7 not like the R6 with a 4-cylinder? But this is what both of these motorcycles did. They shocked people. One with its over-the-board narcissism loaded is basically the epitome of being narcissist. You basically don't need anything more than what is there on this motorcycle. You don't even need 72 horsepower. Let me be very honest. You do have fun, or I mean, what is fun? If you go to a country like where I'm standing in Australia, the maximum speed limit here is 130 kilometers an hour, which is way far from Sydney. It's like up in the Northern Territory where there's no one. Here, 80%, 90% of the Australia, you have speed limits of around 110, and that is also on the highway. and maximum you'll get to go is like 100. I'm talking about legal speed limits, right? So how much power do you actually need? So here the H2 is of course an overkill. One of the guys I met here recently, a couple of days ago in Sydney, said this is a weapon, and he was right. This is a weapon which can kill you. In fact, any motorcycle is a weapon which can kill you, but we all know that, right? Alright guys, so I met this gentleman here. I was just picking up the Indian FTR, and he also saw my Ninja H2. So the word that he said is Top Gun. So that is something which Tom Cruise has to compete with me. Anyway, so I'm sorry I didn't get your name.
Jarrah.
Jarrah. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So you were admiring this?
Yes, definitely.
But why? What is it like?
Why? Well, it's kind of synonymous with going fast, is it not? I mean, everyone's seen the Red Bull video where this guy's getting up to 400 Ks in Turkey. Yeah, and everyone loves it. We know it's the top of the top. You sit on it. It's the rocket that you can have on the road. It's obviously people, they hear Ninja and they think annoying 250 late at night. But then when you see this is another kind of weapon. And with the chrome paint and the headline, and of course they featured it in Top Gun. Tom Cruise likes his motorbikes. He features them.
Kawasaki's.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's cool because Kawasaki, maybe you can find parts that are good, but it's a weapon. I mean, what are you going to say? I mean, if a motorbike that goes 0 to 400 Ks in, I don't know, what's its time limit to get to 400?
I just realized something. He looks like Tom Cruise.
Oh, look at that.
With his hair and stuff, why is he talking about Top Gun?
Yeah, and what would be really Tom Cruise if I just put my helmet right down and just like took this for a ride without the helmet, of course, with the long hair.
$10,000 fine or something.
Yeah, worth it. If they can catch me, that is. I mean, like.
Nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you, dude.
Now, this debate about how much actually do you need in a bike is not logical, or it can never be concluded.
Bikes like the RR310 and the RC390 are the perfect beginner motorcycles that are extremely fast around the corners for most people. With that perspective, the R7 should hit the ball out of the park for most.
See, the thing is that it is human nature to basically get something which we don't need. And this is what drives us. And this bike, the Ninja H2, which I bought in 2017 for the Australia ride, was never about usable power. I know this power can never be used on the road and hardly on the track. It was always about achieving something. It's about getting somewhere in life. It's about having something that you have always dreamt of, or you didn't even know that you need. Now, talking about the R7, this bike is actually what a person who would like to graduate from like say Yamaha R3 or even the RC390 would want. But then if you are a person that is setting goals for yourself, you might outgrow this motorcycle very fast. It's not about what you need, it's about how fast do you outgrow things that you buy. Now, talking about RC390, which is actually a very worthy competitor to this. It's like, of course, comparing apples to oranges here, both in terms of this motorcycle and this. But because the RC390 is made in India, and we know that it's the new version has just been released. It's 44 horsepower, and it's a single cylinder. And it's like a pocket rocket, and it can teach you a lot of things. It's made for the track. If you want to learn riding on the track, that bike is the way to go. And of course, if you live in India, it's relatively cheap. It's quite cheap than other countries because it is made in India and then exported outside, for example, Australia. Now, coming to the R7, I don't think this is going to be launched in India. Now, talking about that, the R15, which is going to be imported here, I say imported because either it's going to be from Indonesia or it's going to be from India. These two versions, they will make their way to the market here in Australia. And the R15, I just rode that a couple of weeks ago in India, and it was the same 60 years World GP edition here. And it looked exactly like the same. The design language was exactly the same. If I take a photo of this motorcycle from the front, from the side, probably hiding the badge, and without the wheels. I think even the wheels were golden, if I remember correctly. It would pass off as an R15. What is a perfect sports bike? There is a clear indication that the thinking of the companies is actually shifting from making hardcore, very fast motorcycles like the R6, which are not selling, to actually usable motorcycles like the R7, because the thinking of the motorcycling mind, the hive mind, its collective mind all over the world is shifting towards now, because now there's another perspective that companies, they've proved their mettle. They've proved that they can push the 200 horsepower barrier, they can keep going, and of course the gentleman's agreement is there, so you can't do much about that number. They've proved that they can shove in a very usable, reliable force induction on a motorcycle. And now they've done everything they can. It's just now just matter of slapping on more lettuce and more cheese in a burger that anyway you're not going to eat. It's already so big. So what's the point? Now the point is that once you start doing that, things start getting expensive for no reason. I mean, I can say, yes, I've got a Ninja H2. Those are bragging rights which I have with this motorcycle. This is the world's fastest production motorcycle. But beyond that, I have to think, like, I have to calculate, okay, I'm standing on this red light, the speed limit is 80 kilometers an hour, 70. I have to, how much throttle can I give, and I have to, when do I start braking, and all these kind of things, with this motorcycle, and how much throttle do I have to give before taking that corner so that I don't slide, have a low side or something like that. So there are 10 things that you have to think while piloting this motorcycle, which makes it much more less fun. Talking about fun, what do you mean fun? I mean, fun means that you can ring that throttle without thinking that it will throw you off, or the rear will slide, and stuff like that. In 72 horsepower, that can also happen. This bike is loaded with electronics. This bike has no electronics except ABS, so it is a bare bones motorcycle in the sense of, like, it's like back to basics kind of thing. And so this is a very debatable topic on what do you need, and what is your purpose of buying a motorcycle. And of course, for many people, this will be an overkill, because why not get an MT-07, which is more ergonomically suited for road riding? So it depends on what you want, and both in terms of out of your motorcycling and as a person. I would want an H2 in my garage. I wouldn't want an H2 in my bedroom, or my dining room, or my workplace. So that is what I want, and there is nothing unnecessary, there is nothing surplus. It is all about what we dream about. It is all about what we want. It's just that, talking about in a literal sense, the bikes like the RS660, the Tuno 660, and the R7 here, they show that now we are actually going back a little bit, dialing things down, and for people, so that they can be afforded, and they can be actually ridden more, and that money which person can save after buying this motorcycle can be used somewhere else, probably for his or her education, or stuff, getting more experiences rather than a more expensive motorcycle. So all this I can keep ranting about. It's just that I'm happy that this whole the world is now being driven by a collective hive mind which is young in the sense of age and young in the sense of mind, and that is what is pushing the companies to produce motorcycles like the R3, the RC390 and the R7, because the purchasing power lies in the hands of young people. When I say young people, I mean people who are like 25, and people who are just started working or have certain amount of savings, and they want to get into motorcycling, they want to take motorcycling seriously. And even now you will not believe that, you know, a lot of purchase decisions for motorcycles are being made by social media content creators. You know, once they start doing YouTube, they get successful, they have the money to buy. The first thing that they will probably do, especially in India, is get a big motorcycle. Because why? Because not because they need that power, because they actually, it's a mark of success that they have arrived and they have reached somewhere in life. And that is what we do, you know, right from our school grades to, do you need 99 or whatever, you know, do you need so much percentage? Does that percentage actually translate to real being successful in real life, in your personal life? No, most probably no, you know. So similarly, numbers, they don't matter, whether it's a 72 horsepower twin cylinder motorcycle or a 275 horsepower inline 4 supercharged. It does not matter. It matters what you want, what you will be happy in. And that, my friends, is something which is to be understood, and you need to be honest with yourself first, and that's about it. So in my other videos with the R7, you'll probably, you know, you'll see me riding here in and around Sydney, and let's see what we can do. So I'm going to drop off the Ninja H2 here, and I'm going to take the R7 here, which looks absolutely beautiful and purpose made for the riding gear which I'm wearing.